when we go into the Q&A sessions, you guys will be on YouTube as well. I'm now at the moment also streaming the presentation online at the same time. So let me mute everybody first. Okay, and then I will share screen so that you can see the presentation. Okay, I think everybody can see the screen. We are talking about the 2009 the flu pandemic. This is the pandemics number 2. Last week we talked about the SARS in 2003. And this one started in about spring in 2009. It is a different virus. It's the H1N1 virus. So it's quite different from the coronavirus in 2003 and 2019. It was first detected in United States, probably also in Mexico, then later on spread very quickly throughout the world. This virus is a bit different because it seems to attack everybody the same. So from about April the 12th to 2009 to about 1 year later, April 10th, 2010, the CDC is the Center for Disease Control from the United States, estimated there were about 60.5 million cases. That's an estimation because at that time they don't have extensive tests for every case, so that's only an estimation, and result in about 274,000 hospitalizations and about 12,000 deaths. Compare that one to the current COVID-19. We know that at the moment the COVID-19 is about 21 million cases with approximately 750,000 deaths. So the spread itself is much faster than this N1H1 for the COVID-19, and the death rate is also higher. So N1H1 is not as dangerous as the current virus. But anyway, that will be instructive for us to look at how this virus also spread and see what kind of lessons we can learn from them. So the initial case is probably 2 children, although it's called a swine flu related to pigs, but the initial case probably the children haven't in contact with any pigs. The first one appeared probably in San Diego. Now, when I say probably, because nobody is sure, all this case is very similar to flu. So if an ordinary person have a flu symptoms, they will go to see the doctor. The doctor say, okay, you have a flu, give you some antiviral or antibiotics. Then you take it and then go back home. You're not going to do a blood test or a sample test because after all, every year there's a lot of people getting a flu. So until some doctors spotted that there is a different kind of flu, nobody is going to start any special notice about that. So it is only probable because later on we find that, okay, we have a epidemics at the moment, so we will be looking backwards, looking at some of the cases and try to get some of the specimens from previous cases in order to track it back. So this is backward looking. We have to say, okay, on 2009 April 14, there is already suspicion. Therefore, there is some specimens, clinical specimens collected, and therefore you can know that, okay, this is a new virus. But how many of this actually happened before you take the first samples? Nobody knows. So these all estimates. So all the patients in the first case is very much like a flu symptom, including fever and cough. So probably even you may even date back much earlier, maybe 30th of March or even earlier. So remember that for all these epidemics, it's very, very difficult to say what is the first case, the first patient. Actually, nobody knows who is actually the first patient unless you do very extensive backward tracking. If the virus is really deadly, then you might have a chance to find its first patients. But if it's not very deadly, then a lot of people might have contracted the virus without knowing, and they are not dying, and they will experience some flu symptoms and then will get cured and therefore consider like just a flu, never knowing that it is a new virus. So there are many difficulties involving tracking who is the first case. But anyway, this is what is probably known in the timeline. This is the early part of the case. The first case probably is March 15. This diagram come from the Americans, so they have the months first before month, date, and year. So 3/15/2008, 2009, that is March 15, up to about April 26. So it is just the first few weeks that is happening. Notice that the number of cases here, is very small. The probable case might be much bigger, but being probable, that means we do not have actual information to know whether it is true or not. So it is just to say probable. I see one hand going up. Is there somebody asking a question? Let me. Okay, there's a chat message. How can I read the chat message at the same time? Is this global numbers or individual countries? This is only the United States countries, United States data at this moment. It haven't spread to the rest of the world yet. Thank you for Jenny's question. Okay, continue. This meant to be a little video showing the case. Unfortunately, the video corrupted. I can't find the original video, so I will have to skip this one. Now, unlike most strains of influenza, N1H1 does not disproportionately infect older people. So it infects everybody. For COVID-19, we know it can also infect everybody, but the deaths is very much concentrated in the older population. But this one doesn't seem to look like that. And in terms of treating this, usually you will have a high fever, pneumonia. And the pneumonia might also be caused by a secondary bacteria infections. Once you have initial virus-induced pneumonia, your body system is being weakened, and then you may be attacked by a bacteria. So usually to treat this, you will have a combination of antiviral as well as antibodies in order to treat your pneumonia. So by November, so you remember it started in about March. By November, so that is almost 9 months now. New England Journal of Medicine article recommended all flu patients with pneumonia indications is treated by both antivirals as well as antibiotics, because the bacterial infection is quite serious in this case. Out of this, this particular one has been very political. The accusation here is mainly focused on the World Health Organization. So by next year, about January 2010, a German deputy who is the chair of the Health Committee at the Council of Europe, accused WHO that it is declaring a false pandemic in order to sell vaccines. So commercial interest and public fear get into the issue at the moment now. It is originating from German. In order to do that, the World Health Organization respond by stating that they take their duty to provide independent advice very seriously, and then use a very public statement. Criticism is part of the outbreak cycle. We expect and indeed welcome criticism and chance to discuss it. Then after that, they set up a 29 expert committee from outside of WHO to look at how the WHO has been handling this H1N1 flu pandemic. The Director General of WHO told the committee that we want a frank, critical, transparent, credible, and independent review of our performance. WHO also learned quite a bit from the previous SARS. In 2003, there's an outbreak. In that outbreak, China didn't report to WHO almost 3 months later. For this one, although United States report the H1N1 flu to WHO very early, but it was not stressed sufficient to indicate that it's a pandemic, and actually has been trying to hold back all the other countries from blocking travelers from United States to their countries, because after all, you can understand the countries take a preventive measure and close the borders to the United States, then the United States will suffer quite significantly economically. So again, in this 2009, that situation has happened. The United States did report to WHO quite early, but refused to stress the scale that this influenza can spread. But luckily, this one is not spreading too quickly as well, so it is not as deadly as COVID-19. By June 2010, the British Medical Journal, BMJ, published an editorial criticizing WHO, saying that the investigation has disclosed some of the experts advising WHO has financial ties with drug companies. Now, the situation is that WHO is quite limited in terms of its finance. So, and it has to have a very large board base of experts to advise WHO. So, in most situations, your experts also come from the industry which is related to the problem. For example, a lot of viral specialists probably come from drug companies because that's where the expertise are. So when these people are advising WHO whether there's a conflict of interest, it's a very difficult line to draw. So the WHO replied saying that without question, the British Medical Journal's feature and editorial will leave many readers with the impression that the WHO's decisions to declare a pandemic was at least partially influenced by a desire to boost the profits of the pharmaceutical industry. The bottom line, however, is that decisions to raise the level of pandemic alert were based clearly defined virological and epidemiological criteria. It is hard to bend this criteria no matter what the motive. This is a very interesting case here. in this particular episode in 2009, 2010, the focus was on WHO. Unlike the COVID-19 this time, the focus was on China. So we had to look at the situation here from a outsider's point of view in order to understand it better. Okay, in terms of infection control, how can you eliminate people from getting infected? Now coming back to May. At that time, WHO already stated that the containment was not feasible because it has spread. So the country should focus on mitigating the effects of the virus. So if the virus was started in March, by May it has already spread, and WHO recognized that and say, "Oh, sorry, we can't stop the spreading. We can't contain. We have to go into the second phase, mitigation." And at the same time, we notice that Chinese government has been a little bit more proactive. Now, this notice is coming from WHO on May 7th, but on April 26th, earlier than May 7th, the Chinese government already announced that visitors coming from flu-infected areas who also experienced flu-like symptoms within the last two weeks will be quarantined. So the Chinese government, learning from the SARS 2003, they are much more proactive than WHO. US airlines made no major change. They still do the same thing. Even in COVID-19, for people coming back to China during the COVID-19, if you are flying in a US airlines, during the whole flight, you don't need to do any personal protection measures. But if you are flying with a Chinese airlines, then you are asked to wear a face mask all the time. Because you are wearing a face mask, that means whenever you drink, you take off your face mask. After that, you will have to put on a new face mask, because these masks are only single purpose. So if you eat, then you are risking yourself. So basically, on flights on China Airlines, they only provide you with water for drinking and mask, and you wear the mask all the time. But the same thing doesn't happen in the United States Airlines or other airlines. That has been quite a bit of complaint from the Chinese government about the US airlines, and therefore they block all US airlines flight into China. And that is one of the major problems with United States as well. Again, at that time, masks were not generally provided to the aircraft nor the crew. Okay, burden. How this virus impact on people. But again, this is only estimate. Okay, the CDC estimate that at least 100 million illness worldwide, with almost 1 million hospitalizations and 75,000 deaths. Now that is a global. The cumulative burden of influenza, sorry, I doubled the word burden. The cumulative burden of influenza H1N1 PDM09 between 2009 and 2018. So that is a much longer, up to almost 10 years later. So this N1H1 has a very long cycle. I don't know whether it is completely eliminated from the world as or not. We don't know. But for SARS 2003, we know that SARS virus has been eliminated from the world because it is much more deadly, and therefore the government's actions are much more serious, and therefore it has to be eliminated. But for COVID-19, I suspect the world won't be able to eliminate this virus because it has spread too much, and a lot of people carrying the virus is asymptomatic, have no symptoms. So you probably don't know you're carrying the virus, and therefore the COVID-19 might come back like the seasonal flu year after year. That's something we don't know. So the estimates have to base on mathematical models. So we will use a sample and then multiply it in order to get the estimation. So using a mathematical multiplier. So again, that makes the estimation inaccurate. Even today for COVID-19, although we have very strict testing regimes, for example, in Victoria here, if we have a similar situation with test for the virus, if the virus turn out positive, we have a confirmed case. So we have some facts available. The facts is the number of people tested and so positive response. But that doesn't reflect the real number of people carrying that virus in the community, because we are not testing everybody. We are only testing a small portion of the population. And from that small portion, we have only a percentage of how many tests returns a positive case. And out of that, we can do an estimation. So there's always a difference between the facts and the real number, because we are not doing 100% test of the population. Having said that, there are some regions trying to do 100% test. One example is Wuhan, the place where the COVID-19 first appeared. They have done almost a 100% population test because of a reoccurrence of the COVID-19 virus. And Hong Kong is now planning to do also a comprehensive test. But with the riot situation, we are not expecting Hong Kong will do 100% population test. They should have, but unfortunately, I don't think so. But so again, testing is a major issue here as well. These estimates only give us an approximate impact. So the impact calculation again is only mathematical and theoretical. So we don't know actually what is the real burden of that disease is on the population and on the world. Globally, there is 18.5 thousand laboratory confirmed deaths. That is laboratory confirmed. So it was reporting as about 75,000. So that 75,000 is an estimation based on the laboratory confirmed deaths with a multiplier, and that's what is said about this. Okay, let's do a comparison to other pandemics. Annually, the annual seasonal influenza affect about 5 to 15% of the global population, ranging from mild to severe illness, which resulted in deaths and hospitalizations. On average, about 41,000 people die of influenza-related illness every year in United States alone. So worldwide, that will be much bigger, probably by a factor of 20. United States represent about 4% of the world population, or 5%. You use 5%, then you have to multiply by 20. So seasonal influenza kill probably 800,000 people per year, based on United States average. But the health situation in United States very strange. They are one of the most heavy spender in terms of medicine. Their percentage of GDP used in healthcare is on average much higher than the rest of the world. But their effects, how their healthcare industry performs, is only very average. Many countries perform much better than United States, compared in terms of influenza, in terms of death rates, in terms of life expectancy, and so forth. United States are a very interesting country in terms of their healthcare system. Here is the top 10 countries according to confirmed case per 1,000 inhabitants. Usually, small countries will be represented in this, because if your country is small, you have a small population. A few cases will get you a very large number in per 1,000 case situation. So among this, there is one interesting countries I'd like to draw your attention to, is the number 9, Palau. Now Palau up to now is still COVID-19 free. They have not a single COVID-19 case. But in 2009 and 2010, they were among the top 10. So quite interesting in terms of this. In terms of Hong Kong should perform better than China, because Hong Kong is much more economically and civilly advanced than the average China. Yes, in China there are some cities much more developed than Hong Kong, for example Shanghai. But remember, it is 2009, so it is almost 10 years ago. 10 years ago, the gap between the wealthy city in China compared with Hong Kong is not as large as the gap today. So Hong Kong should have a better health system, and therefore we would have to expect Hong Kong have a lower number of confirmed case per 1,000 people than China. But China is way down in the list. It doesn't appear here. So again, that indicates that small cities or small states is statistically biased to show up in this kind of statistics. So it may not be the best statistic to confirm the actual case. Okay, what had the US government done so far about that one? Again, like all pandemics, at the beginning, they are not certain. They don't know. This is a new virus. This is a new case. They have a difficulty detecting the virus itself. They even didn't realize that they have a problem. And like every government, when they don't have a confirmed case, they will not want to send a wrong alarm to the population. They will just stay calm and say, oh, nothing, it is only a small case, no problem, etc., etc. a denial is almost a default reaction. So is United States at that time. Remember that is 2009. It's already after 2003. They still in a denial situation. They have released their antiviral stockpile. Presumably will be able to give to everybody, but they didn't. They can use a 50 years old technology to boost up the stockpile to cover about 100 million people, but they didn't, because they are afraid that a population wide vaccinations will alarm the population. And at the same time, again, Americans very interesting. They are anti-vaccine. There's a lot of people anti-vaccine here, anti-vaccine there. So they will have a big problem vaccinating the population anyway. It is how the way is how to alert the public without alarming them. So it is a very difficult situation, a difficult message to put out. At that time, they do at least twice a week announcement about this virus for months. Of course, mistakes are made. There are several mistakes. They could have spotted the virus earlier if they have a better cooperation with Mexico. In late April, the United States isolated it in a sample from Texas and California. So you remember, Texas is in the southern part of United States. California is in the west coast. They're quite large distance apart. You can isolate the virus from such a large distance apart. That means the virus has already traveled through the population. So at that time, it's already spreading. It was spotted only when thousands fall ill in late March or early April in Mexico City. So again, as I said, detecting a new virus is very, very difficult. The CDC tests viruses in Southeast Asia where new flus are usually born. This time, no, they can't find the similar thing. This virus is it originated in Mexico. It's not from Southeast Asia. And again, it predicted it will have 116 million vaccines available, but it ended up with 30. So overpromised. But anyway, I don't think a population-wide vaccination in United States is possible anyway. So around the world, different governments take different actions. Some actions are supported by the people and some not. Again, there is a very large difference between that. I'm sorry, I have an incoming call. Hello? Hello? Sorry. Government health measures in pandemics are effective only with strong support and compliance from the public. A survey of 1,500 US adults in early 2009 showed a very, I wouldn't say surprising, a mixed support for Boston government efforts. Some support more extreme measures such as closing borders. Now remember, closing borders is considered extreme measures at that time. And there are some more basic potentially more effective strategies, policies, such as asking people to stay home instead of go to work. Social isolation. Now, social isolation is very much new to us at the moment, but the Chinese already learned that social isolation worked back in 2003 in the SARS. But still, closing borders is considered a very extreme measure. So we need to look at that in that view. And governments around the world initially uncertain about the virus itself, just like COVID-19. A lot of governments didn't take serious notice of what is happening in China at the beginning phase of the outbreak, and then later on blame China that they didn't tell the rest of the world about what happened. One of the purpose that I do these 3 different pandemic sessions is to show you the difficulties government face when they are faced with a new virus. In Mexico City, where the virus first emerged, officials canceled both public and private events. That is something we know which will work, because without people helping to spread the disease will slow down. China, after learning that from 2003, quarantined all Canadian and Mexican nationals. Hong Kong quarantined all guests at any hotel where there's even a single guest was diagnosed with N1H1. Hong Kong learned the lesson hard, because we know that hotel can spread virus through SARS 2003. Egypt slaughtered 300,000 pigs in order to stop its spread. And the European Union warned people not to travel to the United States or Mexico. In the United States, the initial reactions include closing schools when there's 1 or more cases of flu, and encouraging people to have good hygiene habits, social distancing, limit their contacts to other people, and so forth. Now, for example, for COVID-19, the hygiene doesn't really work, because COVID-19 spreads through air. But for SARS 2003 and H1N1, these 2 can spread through contacts, and so hygiene is very important. So again, different viruses behave differently. Global timeline. Now, this part is a bit very long, so I will just go through a few slides and then we'll stop here for discussion. The first case in the world probably is March 17. And the first case in the United States is probably March 28th. So there's already an 11 days gap. That 11 days means there has been spread to a lot of people. By April the 12th, we have the first known death due to the virus. But it doesn't mean that it is the first death of the virus, because there may be some other people died, but never trace it and link it to the virus. And then by April 24th, so another 12 days later, the World Health Organization give a notice about this flu. So looking at that timeline, from March to April is over 1 month, more than 1 month and 7 days. when that is becomes available. And on the 25th, community outbreaks is confirmed in United States. And then on the same day, the community outbreaks also confirmed in Mexico. That means it has already spread to at least 2 countries. 2 days later, first case confirmed in Canada, in Spain, in United States. Another 1 day later, in Israel, New Zealand. So by April, it has spread internationally. So that is the situation of 2009 H1N1 flu. Okay, I will stop here and then we'll stop the here. Stop the share and then we'll unmute everybody so that people can start asking me questions. Okay, so anyone would like to start a discussion first? No?
Good.
Yes, anyone? Yes, Barbara?
How much did it come in Australia? Australia wasn't mentioned in your list there. And how active was it here?
Australia is quite good at that time because after all, we are quite isolated.
Yeah.
So
I can't remember much, yes.
Yeah, I don't remember anything happening in Australia here by that time. So from my memory, it seems that it doesn't affect us much. And in terms of the list, I think let me just go down a few pages, see whether I can see anything about the first case confirmed in Hong Kong is on May 1st. And then I'm looking for our okay. By May 9, we have the first confirmed case in Australia. But how many get infected, I don't know, because this is only talking about the confirmed case.
No deaths.
Sorry? Yeah.
No deaths.
I don't know whether about the deaths or not. Let me just go through that, see whether I can find a deaths. Looking at the red, it seems that no deaths. I think that we don't have a death. Yes, the first confirmed death in Australia is June 19.
Albert, you don't say anything about the economic consequences. Were there any major, or were they just hidden by the GFC?
I can hear only your first part of the question about the economic. What's the second part? Okay.
Well, it was at the same time as the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis. Was it just hidden by that?
Probably yes, because the global financial crisis also is in 2008, right? So because of that two overlapping, and the global financial crisis is not caused by this virus. I don't think it is caused, but this time, COVID-19 do cause a global financial crisis. Obviously, yeah. So it's quite different because this time the virus is behave much more different. Yes.
Is H1N1 in our current vaccines?
Yes, H1N1 have a vaccine at the moment. Yes.
Is it in our current vaccines that we all have?
No. We are what we are taking the vaccine for example, for here is seasonal flu. Now our seasonal flu vaccines at the moment is a treating 3 strands of influenza. So it's a triple dose. But it's not aimed at H1N1. It is a different antivirus a virus, and therefore the vaccine has to be quite different.
And did the H1N1 die out, or is it still circulating?
I think it is still circulating. I think so, because although it seems to get down, but if you want to kill down a virus, we have to stop it at the beginning. When we let it out into the community, when it spread, some people will be asymptomatic. That means they won't show any symptoms. If they're asymptomatic, they're still a virus carrier, and that virus may sometimes hit another person who trigger a symptom and then an outbreak. So if you want to stop the virus, you have to stop it at the very beginning. If we fail to stop that, then we will have to live with it for a long time, until we have a very strong virus vaccines, and a lot of people are actually willing to be vaccinated, and then we may be able to kill the virus. Just like measles, it took the world how many years? 50 years in order to kill the measles. So once you let it out, it's very difficult to put it back.
Albert,
Yep.
Albert, you mentioned that in 2009, the United States was hesitant to do a mass vaccination because of the anti-vaccination groups in America. I was surprised that it was so strong 10 years ago. They say now that 50% of Americans are very hesitant to take a vaccine, but it's interesting that 10 years ago, it was a strong movement there.
Yeah,
And
it has been quite a strong movement for quite some time.
so it's a big implication for control of the disease when vaccination is our major tool.
Yeah. Well, two issues here. For all this new illness, new disease, the first difficulty is detect the disease. You have to know that there's a problem before you would take any action. That detection is very, very, very difficult. That's something I want to emphasize over and over. It is really difficult to detect the first few cases. Once you detect it, we have a problem. Then the second challenge is to isolate the problem. You know what it is. It may be just a seasonal flu, or it may be bacterial rather than viral. We don't know. So the isolation is also is very difficult. Now, for the case of H1N1, it takes them almost 1 month to isolate. But for COVID-19, let me finish. For COVID-19, it takes Chinese 7 days. So there's a big difference. Now, once you isolated it, then you can develop tests to see whether that is the illness, and then you can have more concrete results. So without a test, everything is just guessing. You don't know what you're dealing with. So that's where the difficulty is. Yes?
Albert, with H1N1, did that mutate at all?
I think they have mutated a little bit, just like the current COVID-19, they have mutated a little bit, but the main virus itself is still quite the same. But I just read that this morning, the virus has mutated in some country, but I haven't confirmed that yet, so I don't know.
Albert, a comment.
Yep.
It goes to show you how once it spreads a little, how much it gains momentum. And for authorities, be they political or medical, it's very hard to make a call, as you pointed out, that we need to close down and do things because it's like a wolf.
Yep.
Getting us to all stop when it's not necessary. That's your initial thing. To think, oh, it won't affect me, it's all over there somewhere, not knowing it's going to be like it is and we're going to be in this situation.
Yep.
So I think some of the medical people must get not a confusion, but a dilemma in their heads. Do they say something or do we shut up till there's more confirmation?
Yeah.
And that time is critical, as you pointed out.
Yeah. Now that is what I think during this COVID-19, there's a case of a Dr. Li Manliang. I think the Chinese stopped him from saying that there is a virus spreading. That the situation exactly has explained very well by you. That yes, the authorities is waiting for a confirmation, and before the confirmation is available, they are reluctant to alarm people.
It would be. Sorry.
My thinking with that doctor is that he spoke out of turn when he's not permitted, but if they allowed him to speak, it would have saved a lot of time and effort and deaths.
No.
So they probably gave him a dose of the virus, so he got rid of him because apparently he died. So
Yeah, he
you
died.
really don't know how far they went to get rid of him.
The reason why he knows that is that the Chinese government already knew that they have something on hand. So it is just a matter of Dr. Li know that because his hospital has sent out a warning to all the doctors to take precautions. So the Chinese government already know, but the Chinese government at that time do not want to alarm the public. And when he sent that information out, initially that information is only going to his doctor friends, so that would be okay. But once that information leaked out to the public and caused a panic, then the
Yes.
Chinese government have to come in and say, no, we don't know yet.
Yes.
And
And
so
that
that
goes
is,
with the politics. That
the politics
politicians
is
don't
definitely
issue
one of the issues here.
Yeah,
Because as you say correctly, shutting down too early, people don't like it. You don't,
yeah.
you everybody will say, well, it doesn't affect me, it's not that serious. Until
No.
it becomes serious, people say it's not serious.
But if a medical person can see, look, it's not a pandemic yet, but it could be, it's likely to be, and if they can wave the magic wand and say, well, let's do this, get behind me, if the world did it, you'd really nip things in the bud, you wouldn't have the problem. But some of the time you do it unnecessarily on the law of averages.
Yeah, unfortunately, so it is a very difficult call. Do you want to nip out every little bugs, no matter whether it is serious or not, paying economic and social consequences, maybe even political consequence? Or
Yes.
you will wait for it to see that it's really a problem, then we will start killing it. So
Right on.
that is a very, very difficult call. But I'm sure all the medical professionals have been thinking about that, struggling to understand what is the best way to do. We don't have a solution. But I think
No.
I think China have now come to a conclusion they will nip it at the butt for any case anyhow. It will, yes, every time you nip it, you will have a little bit of economic costs and social costs and political costs, but that is better than suffering a large setback.
So you're talking about what they might do in the future, are you?
Yeah,
Because
that's
of
what I believe China will do
Yeah.
in the future. They will nip it at the butt for whatever. Just like what they have been doing lately with COVID-19. There is a little bit coming up, then they will use heavy hand to just squash it. Never get it a chance to grow to large again.
And I think the other consequence of some of this is that politically around the world, they don't see what's happening where it first starts, and they don't see, gee, we could be a bit weak in that area, let's do something now. They don't do that. And quite a few countries are like that. Italy is one of them. We're one also.
Yeah, we are in terms of that, we are much better than Italy.
Yeah. We got off to a good start, then we dropped the ball.
Yeah, we got the ball because Victoria here is lax in terms of the quarantine. If the rumor is true, some of our international people coming back under quarantine have social contacts with some of the guards, and that is
Mm.
how you lead out. So because we haven't been very strict in terms of quarantine, otherwise we won't have this second wave.
Yes, I think some of that might get debunked. It could have been a story, but there were bad issues there where they weren't tight enough, and getting everyone wearing masks, a whole range of things.
Yeah.
And some doctors' association wrote into the health department, was in the news, and said, so and so, here's the things you need to do. They never got a reply back, which doesn't mean to say they didn't take any notice of it. If they took notice, it wasn't enough. It really got put to one side.
Yeah.
Where people said, oh, we think we got this covered, oh, that's unnecessary, or the people won't go for that if we ask them to wear a mask all the time.
Yeah. There's other issue is that our preparedness, how prepared we are. No hospital in the world will have spare beds sitting there waiting for a pandemic.
No.
No. So preparedness is a very challenging issue as well. How do you deal with a potentially challenging medical situations? Now, I think Australia did a very good job at the very beginning. But of course, there are consequences. For example, at the very beginning, during our first wave, the hospitals suspended all elective surgery. So they suspension of elective surgery for a month. That means almost everybody will have the elective surgery delayed by a month. So there is a huge cost to the patients. So and again, we will not allow our hospitals to have beds lying there waiting for patients. We want to make the hospital as efficient as possible. So there's a challenge here. What we do we want to build in some spare capacity and let our hospital run at a less efficient state in order to prepare us to deal with big issues? And then if that's the case, how large is the reserve capability we need? We don't know. We don't know how large the reserve is. So that is a very challenging questions for the academics to actually figure out.
Albert,
Yes.
the criticism made of the WHO, do you think that's affected how well they've operated this time?
Yes, I think so. This time, for example, this time in I think it's in in early February. Okay, after Wuhan shut down the city, a team of international experts actually went to China and have do investigations, and then put out the reports after a 2 weeks visits. So they now understand to do it in a more transparent way. So I think the WHO process is much better this time than last time. Now, of course, we know that the American president blamed saying that China didn't notify them. Well, China closed Wuhan. There is a international news. You can't say you don't know. Everybody know that on 23rd January, China closed down Wuhan. In just 1 day before Chinese New Year. That is a big international news. So you can't blame China not telling everybody. China actually make it very clear. And China notified WHO on the 31st December 2019. And therefore it's called COVID-19 instead of COVID-20. That 1 day make it COVID-19. If China
So you were saying that governments will be more transparent in future. Did you mean China's included in that?
China has been very transparent this time.
But there was a time delay.
Well,
It was a fairly time delay.
like all
after it got
cases,
serious.
yeah, like all cases, there's always a time delay. You can't avoid that. From the first case, you suspect, and then to confirmation that it is a new virus, it takes time. Okay. After that, you still have to make a political judgment whether you will want to cram it down very heavily. You don't know how serious the new virus is. It might be very mild, just like seasonal flu. It might be, and then the other difficulty is actually whether it is spreading only from animals to human or human spreading. If it is only animal to human, that is much easier to handle. But if you can spread from human to human, then it is much more difficult to handle. And that is another evidence that need to be collected. So I think a delay is unavoidable. But how short can that delay be is now up to us to actually work out a technical method to do it. How can we scientifically do it in the shortest time possible?
Albert, do you think now with the global world, the way people are flying around the world so much, obviously any virus is going to spread really rapidly. So does that really mean it needs to be really as early as possible, as soon as identified as early as possible, really worked on?
Yeah, well, if you look at this time at COVID-19, okay, about 90% of the cases in China are all in Wuhan. The rest of China is basically just like us. Yes, there's a little bit, but not much. And now, let's say something. The first important message is that China closing Wuhan saved itself from spreading to the rest of the country. And by closing Wuhan, it also means that China has closed to the world. Because it's closed Wuhan, and Wuhan doesn't allow any people to come in and come out. And therefore, all the virus is there. You can't spread anymore. Okay, even there are traffic with the rest of the world from some other places in China, but the center is already closed. But unfortunately, it's still too late because there's a little bit of virus already spread to other part of China, and then that spread might have, for example, Italy might come from like that. But again, from some of the first-line medical doctors in Italy, they said they already see some cases like the COVID-19 back in November 2019. But again, difficult to say because until you have a test, you don't know that patient is actually COVID-19 or seasonal flu. So we don't know. So that's why China is interested in finding the origin of this virus, but is definitely unhappy about pointing finger at China. This is different. Okay? You pointing finger at China, of course, they are not happy. But in terms of finding the origin of this virus, well, let the scientists do that. And everybody should support this. But again, you're absolutely correct. With people traveling around the world, the fastest you can isolate the problem, the better. How fast is fast? It's a good question, right? It took China 1 week to get the DNA sequence out. Is that fast or not? I don't know. 1 week.
I think it'd be pretty fast, wouldn't it?
I think so, but I suppose if technology improve, maybe we can short it down into even shorter time frame. Now, in order to do that, what I understand is you need to take a sample, grow the sample to a certain size, sufficient, and then you do a test. So at the moment, I think in Australia here, we can do it in 24 hours. So that is pretty fast. But again, that is when you know the virus. When you don't know what it is, whether it is a virus or bacteria, you don't know, then I would suspect it take a longer time. If we can somehow use big data, find out any spread of disease, and then based on big data, collect it much earlier and do tests earlier, we probably can shorten it and will be better. I definitely support all this. Any more question?
Yeah, we'll leave
No,
that.
Albert.
Yep.
Oh, hi. Not a question, but last week you promised to send out the Chinese version of the Hong Kong situation.
Yeah.
You said
And
you wrote
I
it
have
down
done
and
that.
forgot.
Unfortunately, people don't know who to send to. So what I will do now, right now, is send out the playlist at the moment, so that anybody interested in it can look at it. So I'm now going to my computer, getting my playlist for you guys. Okay, so
Very good. So it will be on the what? On what?
on the chat
email?
here.
He must be from Hawthorne.
Okay, let me just get to
That's what happened.
my
He tried to say
YouTube.
Hawthorne, forgot to connect it to include Deep Dean. That's why we were sitting here waiting for the new
Thank you
arrival.
reminding me.
The speaker.
Yeah.
So I'm still silent.
Okay.
Is it going on to the U3A?
No, I'm going up to the Zoom chat group here. Okay. It just sent out to everybody. So you will open
How
up
do
your
we-
chat.
How do we access that?
Click on that one, and then you should be able. Are you working on a computer or a
Computer.
computer? Then on your screen on the right side, there will be a chat window. If you don't see a chat window, then you can click on more, and then you see chat. More is in the lower
Not the
right.
normal chat. Not the normal chat that we.
Yes, just click on that
Yeah.
and it'll
But
come up.
Albert, if we want to watch it at a later date,
Yeah.
would we have access to the chat if we close down the Zoom? Probably not.
Yeah, so you better get it now.
Copy it into.
Yeah, copy the link.
Where is it?
Okay.
Okay, in your chat window, the screen with many people's face,
Mhm.
there is 3 dots on the lower right bottom, saying more.
1, 2, 3 dots.
Next
I can't see.
next to the end, the red button.
Next to what?
Chat.
Next to the red button end, there's something called more.
I can't see it. I can see leave.
The
It's a
the
very-
one next to leave.
There's no dots next to leave.
What's that?
No.
Is that you
No,
see?
it's a chat box.
Press chat, and then you get the 3 dots on the right.
Press chat
Yeah, okay.
and then 3 dots.
Next to file.
I've got. I can get access to it.
It says save chat.
Go to chat. I've pressed on chat. Now I can see participants, chat, share screen, record.
Yep, and next to that, there's a more, and then click on more, you can see the chat.
Hang on. Right. On the participants, the list of participants,
Yeah,
on the right-hand side,
yeah. There's an arrow going up.
or if you go all the way down past Sue Rattray's name, there's from Albert to everyone an HTTPS thing.
If I press participants, do I?
You press participants on the right-hand side. It brings up a panel on the right.
Yes.
And it has 29 participants.
Right.
Go right down to the bottom after Sue's name.
Sue Rattray, yeah.
From Albert to everyone. And you'll see...
I can see Sue Rattray, but I can't see anything else below that.
Well, after Sue, on my screen, I've got from Albert to everyone.
You have to just put your cursor down.
I've got Jeff and Jill Smart. He's on the bottom. They're on the bottom.
You've got to pull your cursor down lower.
It won't go down any further.
No. On my screen, you need to go into chat. It's not on participants. It's in the chat box.
Okay.
So
can you tell me your
What if I go
email
to
address?
Albert?
I send it out to you, or your...
Can you send it to my email address? Will
Yes.
that be a problem?
It's better I do it right now before I forget.
Can I give you my email address now?
Yes, please.
Okay, P for Peter.
Look, hang on. Let me just open up my email and then send
Sure.
it to you right now.
Sure.
So just hang on a little bit.
For what it's worth, I just got in and pressed the more, got the chat, got the YouTube, opened it up,
Yep.
and then I just shrunk it down and came back onto here, and it kept in my partly open files, so you could look at it a second time or third time.
Yeah.
Or you can copy it, yeah.
Can I give you
Or
my
you can
email
copy
address?
it.
Sorry, I
Okay,
can't
please
give
give me your email address.
P for Peter.
My computer is slow at the moment. Just hang on, it's still loading.
I hope everyone doesn't mind.
No.
What? Let me. Wait. Come on. I want to write a new email.
Oh, yeah, okay. P for Peter.
Yeah, P for Peter.
Y for yellow.
Yellow.
And then urban, like URBAN.
URBAN.
At hotmail.com.
Hotmail. Okay.
.com, yeah?
.com. Okay, I will
Thank
send it
you.
out to you. Okay.
Sorry, everybody, for taking some time.
No problem.
In fact, I think now it's just come up on my computer. What everyone was talking about. It didn't come up before. Anyway,
It's strange software.
yeah.
But anyway, now that is the playlist for all my China Today presentations. So you can find whatever you like from all that. So including something which might not be what you want to look at, but anyway, that's my whole list. Come on.
Good.
My Gmail is still loading. But I have written down your email address, so
Yes, thank you.
I'm already on the most expensive NBN.
Yeah, program or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We're pretty backward.
Yeah.
We're pretty backward in
Okay.
Australia.
Finally, my recipient PYURBAN.
Yep. You know, we were in a bus not that long ago in Cambodia, and the Wi-Fi there was amazing on the bus in a third world country.
We are not first world at the moment.
No.
Our internet is so slow.
Yeah.
Okay, the sending.
We have a very famous politician to thank for that.
Yeah.
Yes. Mention no names.
Mention no names.
Okay, so if that's the case, then we will finish today by thanking everybody for coming. So
Thank you.
next week,
Thank you very
Well,
next
thank
week
you.
will be on SARS. Okay,
Thank you.
well, on COVID-19.
Thank you.
Okay, see you
That's
next
it,
week
we're
then.
finished with all this. We're finished with all this now, aren't we? No next Monday.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, not on COVID though, I think.
Oh, okay.
Next Monday is COVID-19.
Yeah.
Oh, it is COVID.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah,
That's the third and last. Yes.
yeah, the first of the pandemics.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Albert.
Thank you,
very
thank
much.
you, everybody.
Bye.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.